So without further ado, Joakim, stage is yours to the session that we call What If?
Yes, another saying of mine and fellow futurists is that the future cannot be predicted. We need to prepare for the future, and we do that by immersing ourselves in stories about the future, alternative futures, futures in plural. We base these stories on facts and evidence about the future that's present in the present. And then we add some creativity and some fiction, and then we create these stories about the future. We are going to go to one of these futures. We have prepared a little film clip. It's a news broadcast from the future that will tell you something about an alternative future that might occur. Please roll the tape.
Good morning. Here's your personal newsfeed with the latest info that may have an impact on you in the near future, both locally and globally. We start in the North Sea, where the artificial island, the Carbon Lagoon, was inaugurated today by Queen Victoria. The island, designed from recycled plastic, is the first large-scale attempt after years of research and development. The willow hybrid is cultivated in water and grows continuously, making it extremely good at absorbing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Harvesting robots convert the willow into biochar, which then sinks to the seabed. The EU is investing in thousands of autonomous islands that will sink gigatons of carbon dioxide each year. Investment in space mining continues. New deposits of the rare mineral neodymium have been found in the asteroid belt. This will future-proof the Earth's resources and provide us with what we need to continue living as we do today. And now to the soon-to-be uninhabitable burning southern Spain. Margareta, the last Swedish pensioner living in the Costa del Sol, prepares to move back home. After 15 years, something that felt like a lifetime, 81-year-old Margareta is now packing in a hurry to make the last ever flight from Malaga to Sweden tonight.
I wouldn't say I'm moving, but rather fleeing. What I thought would be a wonderful retirement has turned into a nightmare. There has been a successive increase in wildfires, droughts, and water shortages.
And now for a final climate report. We start by taking a look out in the world. The heat has a firm grip on southern Europe, and freshwater levels are at record lows. But it's not just the water flows we need to think about. There are also the climate refugee flows. Right now, 4 to 5 million people are displaced in the EU due to the climate crisis and its consequences. And there are many times more than that in Africa. Here at home in southern Sweden, the UV index is at critical levels. The Public Health Agency is recommending that people in regions 1 and 2 are outdoors for a maximum of 3 hours today. That was all for this news broadcast.
So that's a possible future. What do you think? How does that feel? What does it tell you about the future? Is that a future you would like to contribute to? Is that a future you would like to live in? Or is it something that you would like to help out avoiding? And perhaps there's different bits and pieces in this news broadcast that some are good and some are bad and some are avoidable. But what do you think? What resonated with you? What's your gut feeling? Please find the chat and share your thoughts about this scenario, and just make it spontaneous and say what you think about that future that you just experienced. What are your thoughts?
Well, the mother in me obviously feels a bit of fear and anxiety, and it's many of those aspects that we've in theory discussed. It's the coming of life of the reports that we read and the discussions that we have, and it becomes quite, I think, tangible.
Yeah,
way.
I mean, the tangible part is really important. Yes, so we read about the IPCC report yesterday, but it's facts and figures. It doesn't really tell us what kind of future is. What does that mean? Understanding this is a way of, I mean, we paint the picture of wildfires in Spain and that people are fleeing from Spain. That makes it like real. And that's another way of trying to address the fact that this is actually going to happen. This might happen. It's a possible future. So exactly, that's speculative design. We're going to talk more about speculative design in like the method tomorrow. I'm planning to do at least, but.
The tech geek within wonders, was that an AI avatar?
It was, yes. And also it's important to say that there's some parts of fiction in there, but recycled plastics for carbon absorption, robotic harvesters, space mining. What else did we have? We had of course, the wildfires. The weather report in the end is kind of our way of saying that. So local weather, yes, that could be interesting from an extreme weather point of view, but also like the average climate report from a world view is also important because the climate has such dramatic effects on all over the globe. So that's our take on that. We need to broaden our minds and look at the world as one.
Do you have an emotional reaction in mind? When you, do you kind of understand what people are going to write in the chat? Do you want to ignite my anger? As in, no, this is not the scenario I want, or my imagination. That's a great idea for a carbon extracting island.
Yeah. So you need to be provocative. You shouldn't shy away from being provocative either, and don't only paint the utopian picture, but also the dystopian story. But it has to be provocative. That's a key element in this. So, and I thought that before we move on, I'm going to take the opportunity to teach some. Would you like to become a futurist?
Yes.
Okay, so
very hard to say no to that.
So the first step in becoming a futurist is to get the habit of identifying the weak signals around us in the world today that says something about a possible future. What are weak signals? Those could be products, could be events, could be new policies, it could be new behaviors, experiences, but it's not the ones that makes the headlines. It's the ones that makes you think, I hadn't seen that before. That's a bit strange, awkward, or that's you feel that kind of that's new. For instance, the other day I saw an article about some researchers creating a robotic dolphin that was so lifelike that they could actually replace actual dolphins in captivity with this robotic dolphin. And I was like, that's interesting. I haven't seen that before. So signals is the first thing you should start to look for. Read between the lines, look around you in the world, look after these things that makes you think, that's something strange.
So as a pupil, I immediately have a question here, because one of the things that I look for signals in and where question marks arise is my, don't tell anyone, slight addiction to TikTok. Mm-hmm. And in my scrolling of TikTok, I will several times a week go, that's an odd way of framing things. And at the same time, I'm acutely aware of this being my bubble. How do you balance finding weak signals and understanding that I'm in a filter bubble of sorts?
So the best way is to make it a team effort.
Find another bubble.
Find other
Who would like to be my other bubble?
To talk about your findings, because together in a small team, I think I will talk more about this on day 3. But let's talk a little bit about now, because finding your peers, but not perhaps outside your bubble, a few colleagues perhaps coming from different, and you have a weekly or bi-weekly signals meeting, then you could just. This is what I've seen. What do you think about this? And then you can rank and you can talk about your signals, and they could give more of an objective view on your signals. So that's a way of creating, but of course they are subjective. It's your experience and your thoughts about this signal. So the signal part is one thing in creating scenarios. The other one is identifying the driving forces. And driving forces are more like the long-term trends. That could be climate change, that could be an aging world population, it could be rise of disinformation, it could be polarization, as we just talked about. those are the long arcing trends that combined with the signals tells us something about the future. And that's how you create scenarios. That's how you could like build your own thesis about alternative futures. So getting that signal identifying habit it's not really hard, and it's really highly addictive. Once you get it, you cannot stop looking for it. You need to watch the news feeds looking for not the headlines, but rather like trying to read in between the lines, which is really great. So another driving force I saw the other day was, and that's a long arcing trend, that what do we think about zoos? I mean, zoos are they ethical? Not really, perhaps. There has been a movement for decades. So combining the signal, the robotic dolphin, with the trend that, or the long arcing driving force that zoos are more and more regarded as perhaps not too ethical, makes me think, so perhaps a plausible or possible future would be that, hey, zoos are inhabited by robotic animals. So that's the first step. And the next step is that, well, if we have robotic replicas of animals that's available today, or like living today, why not have like dinosaurs? Why not? I mean, of course we can create Jurassic Park. It's just not the way that they pictured it in the movie, but we can, if you can make a robotic dolphin, you can build a T-Rex. So that's how you build a scenario, and that's how I built that quickly, just scrapped together some bits and pieces and created that scenario. So that was lesson number 1. Stay tuned for lesson number 2 tomorrow. I'm going to give you also a home assignment. During the day, the viewers of Sweden Innovation Days, we're going to ask you a question. Today's focus is paving the way for innovation. We talk a lot about skills. We have been talking about lifelong learning. You will hear a lot of different aspects about the future. So I would like to, in the back of your minds, you should have this thought. What kind of skills do you need in 2035? It's not that far away. It's like 12 years away. But still, given I've already spoken about exponential developments, you will need probably new skills. But what kind of skills do you think that you will have in 2035 that you don't have today? That's our question for a Menti. So if we get the Menti up on the screen, please answer this Menti about what kind of skills you would like, or you think you would have to need in 2035. And we'll circle back to that at the conclusion of the day at around, 5, right? Yes. So that's everything from the What If University.
No, it's not.
No,
I was wondering, what skills do you think that you need?
Okay, so I think maybe I think it will get worse before it gets better. Until I reach that 128 mark. I think in 12 years, perhaps I will need to get better at cultivating food. I mean, growing food in some way. Perhaps taking care of a farm or something like that. That could happen. So getting better at that. I like to put seeds in the ground, but that's not really enough to feed our family. So might be... If
you spent as much time as I did on TikTok, you would see that not as a weak signal, but as quite a strong signal. There's
preppers?
The preppers in a new version, which is, how do I become self-sufficient? So it's not only in the case of a scenario, I would like to build a life either really off the grid or some sort of semi off the grid. And there's these beautiful cases of both Europeans and Americans that are sharing hacks on how to energy for your home, how to build a sustainable food base throughout the winter, how do you preserve the food, how do you how do you do it in an urban setting, in a very small environment?
Sure.
So there's very much the social aspect of it. You don't need to be wealthy in order to do it.
But what about your thoughts, about your skills?
I completely agree with you. I would love to be self-sufficient, both in terms of farming, hunting, breathing, the mental state of like being outside of the grid. To be continued.
To be continued.
To be continued.
Yes.